Tell me, darling, could we run away? We could hide away by the cactus desert blue. I can see it just a mile away from this crowded place. I could lay there next to you.
Hey friends, welcome back to our channel, Best Freaking Friends Forever. Thank you guys for subscribing, liking, watching our videos, and commenting down below. So today we're going to talk about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. So its release date was June 14th of 1991. Its budget was $48 million. In the opening weekend, it made $26 million right off the bat, which with inflation, that's $59 million. So that was pretty good. Plus, they made almost half their budget back, or a little over half their budget back. They grossed $165 million in the U.S., which is $314 million with inflation today. And then worldwide, it was $390 million that they grossed, and that's $741 million with inflation. That's crazy in today's terms, I think.
Yeah, well, look, I was looking at the inflation from then until now was 90%.
Wow.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Well, but it has some big names in it. I mean, we have Kevin Costner, we have Alan Rickman, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, I'm probably butchered that, and Christian Slater and Morgan Freeman. So it has some big names in it.
Oh yeah.
And cameo from Sean Connery at the end. So some big names.
Yeah, and a fact about that is he got paid $250,000 just for that little part at the end, and he donated it all to charity.
I think that's awesome that he did that. And that, like we were talking, they wanted him to play Robin's father, and he didn't want to do that because he had been playing a lot of fathers, and I guess the past couple years leading up to that, he'd been playing fathers, and he didn't want to do that again. So, but really, he was 61 when he did that, like we talked about earlier, and how Prince Richard, or King Richard back then, was only, in that time period, was 37. So I thought that was kind of, that they played him so much older than what he really would have been.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of like, when you think of a king, you think of older, mature. Mm-hmm. So it probably did work out well to kind of get a more older, mature actor to kind of fill that part, so that it kind of keeps that idea in your head. But yeah, I mean, kings back in this day probably didn't live past 40, 50 at the most. Mm-hmm. And they were, I mean, if you think of a king, a lot of them started out as young as 9 years old. Their father could have died, and then, here they are ruling a kingdom at such a young age. It was very common back then. Robin Hood is said to be a legend, though. Robin Hood. He's not really, there's no really confirmed history that he is a real, like it really happened, like this storyline. And this is a storyline that's been told time and time and time again. Mm-hmm. In variations, like they've done spoofs of it, and the drama, the comedies, they've done them all, which are I've not even seen all of them.
No, I've not seen, like, there's Robin Hood Men in Tights, and it's interesting, like Carrie Elways, who was in Princess Bride, who played Wesley in that, he was offered the Robin Hood role, and he didn't want to, because I forget what he said about the role, but he didn't think the role was good. But then he would be Robin Hood in Robin Hood in Tights, Men in Tights is what he was in, the spoof of it, which he would do that, but he wouldn't do this. So.
Kevin Costner, I just love, and I feel like they wanted Morgan Freeman. I don't know if this happened, but I feel like they wanted him in this movie, Morgan Freeman. They were like, what could we do to get him in this movie? And I think they just created this role of Azim, because he's, as far as I know, he's not in any other story that's told. Azim is not.
No, not in the, I mean, I know the newer version of Robin Hood with, oh my gosh, Taron Egerton and, I'm blanking. The newer, like 2018 version. Right. They also have kind of an Azim in that version as well. But yeah, in the older versions, I don't think they do. But I mean, it's because they were playing, or he was in the Holy War over there fighting, and then that's how they met supposedly. I don't know. Because in the newer version too, that's also how they meet.
Okay.
But
yeah, I've not seen that one. I probably need. I just feel like it's gonna ruin this one for me. It's
a little darker. It's a little darker than this one. I will say that. I mean, it's very good, but it's a lot darker.
Yeah, because this one's just so good. I feel like it's iconic. It's a classic. It's just, it's got all these big names in it. I'm just scared to watch anything else that's. I feel like it's gonna ruin it. I don't know. I'll probably just have to buckle down and do it.
I mean, I've seen both, and it didn't ruin it for me. I still love this version.
Yes. Oh, yes. I love.
Yeah.
It's so good, and Kevin Costner is just, and then like him and Maid Marian. With their, I don't know, their characters together. I really like them. She can hold banter. Yeah, well, and she can hold her own for sure. Her and Sarah, because I like where he said, Robin's like, what happened to your eye? And he's like, 12, 15 men, big burly men, and it's Sarah that punched him in the eye, caused the black eye.
She's like, yeah, and she's like, oh yeah, really? She's kind of like, oh, that's interesting. Right. But she never tells on him, I don't think. It's funny that she was like, no, I did that. Mm-hmm. Like, why are you lying?
Right, probably shouldn't hurt his ego anymore.
No. Well, and like with Alan Rickman, and even like there was rumors that Kevin Costner had some of his, I guess, scenes removed because he could see him getting more, I guess, attention than him. Mm-hmm. So he was afraid that he was outstaging him. And so there's rumors that he had some of his things cut. And Alan Rickman took it upon himself to have some of it, like he ad-libbed a lot, and he got some of his lines changed so that he would be more, because he just thought they were dull and they were bland. Like the whole about calling off Christmas.
Yeah.
And when he was telling the the women that were in his area or in his castle with him, he's like, you 10:30, you 10:45, and bring a friend. Like that was ad-libbed to make his lines less bland, so that, and people, I mean, he knew it was working because the people would laugh behind like the camera, like they'd cover their mouth so they couldn't hear him laughing. So he knew it was working, and that his character, I mean, I don't know. But that's just the kind of, I mean, we know from previous movies that he was in, obviously Die Hard, that's just the kind of actor he is.
Right. Well, his death scene is really good. This is the first movie I ever, like, because my parents liked this movie, and so I watched this when I was really, really young, and I remember seeing that scene, like the scene where he tries to consummate their marriage and doesn't succeed, and like that scene's really intense. And then like his death scene, he just did that so well. Like just that whole, like he made a whole fiasco of that.
Yeah, he did.
He did a really well job. Like he didn't over exaggerate. I feel like it was just enough for what happened to him. And it's kind of like poetic that he had given that dagger to Marion, and then she gave it to Robin to donate to the cause, and he takes it back and kills him with it.
Yep, his own dagger. And I think you can kind of see in the movie, he looks down and he's like, that's my own dagger. Like he notices that that's his own dagger that he just got stabbed with. Mm-hmm. Like, and yeah, so that, but, and just he does a good job with he ad-libs a lot too. Like he's like, Loxley, I'm going to cut your heart out with a spoon. And that was ad-lib. So they had to go, and when he's talking to his cousin, or when he's talking to Guy of Gisborne, they kind of had to add that little part in about the spoon because he ad-libbed that line and they liked it.
Yeah.
So then they kind of had to add a little bit for that too, to kind of go into a little bit more detail with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know we talked about it, but I don't know my favorite part. There's so many different little ones. I remember as a kid liking the parts with the witch and her telling the fortune on the plates. I like those two parts. I don't know. Something about those really caught my interest as a kid for some reason. Watching it again for this, I probably would have to say where the little girl comes up to Azim and says, did God paint you? I just like that. That's really sweet. That's just a sweet moment. And he said, for certain. So and then he says because God likes wondrous variety or something like that. So yeah, I don't know. I think that probably could be my favorite. I don't know. In the love story, I just like this is February, so we're doing this in February, and I just think this is a good love story because she tells Robin, which is, at the end you hear the song, she tells Robin, I'll do it for you, because he's like, do it for King Richard, protect us for him. And she's like, no, I'll do it for you, because up until that point, she was giving him a hard time. She wasn't really letting up on the fact that he burned her hair when they were children.
I was going to say, he was rough on her when they were kids, from what we learned. Yeah, he was not a very nice kid to her.
Well, and it seems like before he left, just the vibe that you could get was that he caused a lot of mayhem because him and his father got in a fight. Because even his father is like begging for his return. And I was looking for the body count. I can't find it. He was it just seemed that he was very immature. And going to the Crusades really woke him up, and he didn't want any more blood spilled, but he had to do what he had to do. And yeah, so I don't know, but what was your favorite part?
I like that scene too. I totally forgot about the river crossing scene when he first meets Little John. Like that's an iconic scene, because I guess in all of that's how they meet in most of the stories, that they have to cross the river or pay taxes or pay a fine or whatever to get across it. And just the way they did it, like that was a lot of fun too. I think I've watched an interview with Kevin Costner where he said basically like where he kicked the water up at him and stuff like that. That was just like them just messing, you know what I mean? Like they were just kind of doing, just part of it. And, it made it more fun to watch. And the whole part where he couldn't swim, and he was like, now do you yield? And he's like, yes, I yield. So he's like, put your feet down. Yeah. He's like, oh
yeah, that's
another. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah, that's another one that I remember as a kid liking that one too. I like that one. I don't know why every time I watch this, I go through and I'm like, why does Will hate Robin so much? And I go through the whole process every time. I don't know why. And then we get to the part where he's like, you're my brother. And I'm like, dang, how do I always forget that? I don't know why. I think now I'll remember. I think from now on I'll always remember that. But even like Robin's just excited because I think to him now he's no longer alone. His father has died. He doesn't have any family. His mom died, his dad, and he just has no family left. And now that he knows he has blood living, he's excited about that. He's like, finally, I'm not alone.
Well, and I think their relationship, obviously we can see, because he keeps calling Witch Boy, and he calls him spoiled. And so I think even from the beginning, I think Will knows who he is, but Robin doesn't know who Will is. He doesn't understand, because he even says, what have I done to you? Where have I wronged you? And because he has no idea, like Robin really doesn't have any idea why Will hates him so much. Yeah. And it's because Will feels that Robin broke up or caused, issues with his mom and his dad. Well, he says, the fact that our father loved you more than me. Will tells him that when he comes back from being taken, and he's trying to get and I think that's when they turn their page, and Will kind of starts to see. And another favorite, and I don't know why I like this scene so much, but when they do the catapult scene, like I told you earlier, the catapult scene where he's like, he cusses and he says that, and he's like, they cleared it. And I guess they weren't going to leave that in because obviously the word, but they did because it was funny. And even though it was, historically inaccurate, but I don't know why. I just like that scene too.
Yeah. Well, and Christian Slater, I get he is a huge throb. Such a the girl swooned over him back in the day. I remember that was like a big name back in the day for the ladies. There's
so much action.
Yeah.
And just, there's always something going on. Like when they go to Sherwood Fort, like I've read too that Kevin Costner, when they are stealing Maid Marian's horses, and Lady Marian's horses, and they get to Sherwood, like the outskirts of it, and they stop, the horse reared up on Kevin Costner, and it hit him like in the face, and he broke his nose and didn't break stride. Like, he didn't even like, I mean, it phased him obviously, but he didn't break character. Like, he just kept right on going. So, I mean, things like that you don't notice, but it's a good movie.
All right, guys. Well, that is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with Kevin Costner. I am Tiffany, and this is my BFFF Shelley. Join us next time, friends, for another great episode.